And now this is one of the more, I suppose, consequential episodes of the program, certainly of this season, adding a dense amount of mythology to the show. Some of the most, like defining and, just, as I said, just, there's no going back from this.
Of the Hypnotoad.
Well, that too. That's the other thing. First appearance of Hypnotoad, one of the show's most iconic exports.
And also the reveal, of like the Nibblonians.
Yeah, Nibbler's origin story, plus of course the brain spawn going along with it.
Yeah.
One of the coolest facets of Futurama is this, and it's interesting that, and I kind of appreciate that the newer seasons never bothered to sort of bring. I guess they were defeated in the Wire Friday, so you couldn't really bring them back. But
it would have been cheap to bring them back.
Like the idea of the brain spawn being this sort of like Dalek-esque threat to the series is a really intriguing idea. I mean, it's nice enough that they get to bring him in twice and then sort of just like they don't get a chance to become feel nerfed or like overused or whatever.
Yeah,
but like it's the cool exactly. But it's such a cool concept and just a beautiful instance of the show's 3D animation. They're spooky, they're sort of funny. They're sort of everything that's idiosyncratic and imaginative about the show in this sort of oddball antagonist. But onto the episode itself. There's lots of funny things in the episode, and there's some quite impressionable and impactful moments in the episode in terms of it being sort of interesting or tense science fiction. Although, something that occurred to me like the older I got, I used to be very fond of the episode, and I still like it. Although, one thing that does bug me about it, and like, it's almost like sometimes the episode, it's Futurama is a comedy show, so I can't complain about this too much in some respects. Sometimes the episode's too much of an example of quality, horrific, apocalyptic science fiction in its own right, that when it's like focusing on the gags and everyone being stupid, I'm actually a bit disappointed by it. Because I prefer it when it's a sort of like Friday the Triffids scenario, but like it's, I love the idea of that and the brain spawn sort of taking over Earth and how scary and serious everything is when they're, up to Lila or escaping Earth with Nibbler. And then it's just all like the very easy dumb jokes, which are funny, but I feel like when they're building up to planets exploding and they're coming to Earth, it just seems a bit like...
Well, maybe they don't do enough of it, but there is the one gag where the stupidity is genuinely dangerous.
The trains.
When they send in the more trains, I
guess. I guess I would have liked more apocalyptic demonstrations within the episode.
Yeah, well, I guess when Fry goes out on the balcony to yell and everything, it looks like the apocalypse.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I
do see your point, that there are a bunch of the gags, but yeah, it tries to balance the two. It never goes full apocalyptic, though it doesn't sort of have the time to establish that atmosphere,
I feel like the episode is almost like sort of bulging with like the runtime, you know what I mean? Like it's like barely kind of having it all in there. Like
exactly.
Quite a lot happens in the span of 22 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. If maybe it was paced with 48 minutes in mind, then there'd be more room for that sort of atmosphere building. But
yeah, sure.
Like in the case of a 22 minute sort of sitcom, it gets the jokes in and a bit of the tension or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sort of, at no point in Futurama, because also probably is the nature of a sitcom. Do you think there's going to be like a complete status quo shifting event or something like that?
Well, it's not about like thinking that. It's more about sort of the thrilling experience of the building up some sort of like fiery Armageddon-esque event within the parameters of the show, which is exciting. And I feel like they scrape the surface of it, but it gets lost a bit in the sort of like, and also a lot of the stupid humor, like when they were stupid, like it just kind of falls into like 2000s like random humor for me a little bit, and it hasn't aged that well for me. I'm not gonna lie. It just I don't know, like it's not that, just by its nature it's not that clever, and so like I just doesn't it just kind of like, it just doesn't faze me, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of those jokes, like, they're just like, I don't know, George Washington saying Thomas Jefferson. And then,
that's not a great bit.
And then,
I do like
the way Leela acts when she's just in the it's just kind of, you know, just distracts from the sort of otherwise really exciting and interesting sort of Doctor Who mind robber-esque scenario of going through the different fictional novels, you know.
Sure. That conclusion is really good.
Yeah.
I do like that conclusion.
I like the sort of the twist of like Fry doing the clever thing of writing a book on the spot and then making sure the brain goes into that.
Yeah.
So it's
the whole conclusion
tricks it into leaving.
Is quite good. Yeah, I do see a point there. I don't think it gets bogged down in it too much, but I could see where a lesser show would take that sort of thing a bit too far. Yeah, the Thomas Jefferson joke's not the best. Or like Chester A. Arthur fall down. I do like when the professor tries to... He doesn't trust the fire. So he thinks he'll be able to get out of the fire, and then he finds out that indeed the fire is hot.
Yeah.
There are little touches where it works, but a lot of it doesn't as well. It's a bit hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean, like likable stuff, and again, I can't complain too much when the show's employing the science fiction characteristics, which I always, I guess often prefer it to, and it's doing that, and rather than sort of just like, classic 20th century sitcom, cliche 20th century sitcom stuff with like a sci-fi sort of sheen over it. Like it's genuine taking a science fiction concept and exploring like a sort of humorous sort of back and forth about it. And they do an interesting job with this. And I guess just by nature of being a sitcom and one that doesn't take itself too seriously, there is a bit of humor in there, which it kind of bothers me slightly, but it doesn't. It's not consequent. I still like the episode overall, certainly.
And this episode is the reveal of a large aspect of, I guess, the series' overarching, mythology or world building things that apparently are they're foreshadowed earlier in the show, right?
I believe people will say Nibbler's shadow was in the Space Pilot 3000, but I guess it's more of a Wire Fry precursor. That's not hinted at here yet.
One thing I always wondered was they later on conclude that Fry isn't affected by the brains because he doesn't have the delta wave or whatever, but that's because of the Roswell that Enswell incident. I wonder if they obviously I've always wondered if they had that in mind in this episode, because that obviously hasn't happened yet, because they don't explain why Fry is different. You just get he is because he's the show protagonist who's Fry essentially,
maybe. I wonder if Roswell and Enzo was part of the grand plan as well, because I guess they can form a trilogy of sorts.
I don't know if anyone's ever asked them about it.
I
wondered that.
I think they're fairly open about the Nibbler sort of twist being planned. From the start, but where the Roswell incident fits in, I'm actually not. I don't remember whether that was thought about later or earlier on. It's interesting to think about. But, part of the reason why, I guess, my view of this episode is slightly affected is I can't compare it slightly negatively to what the Wire Fry I consider basically a perfect episode. And so, that's, what I would always, from in the sort of rewatch sort of tool at my fingertips, I'd go to Wire Fry and I'd never really think about this one. Unless I was really in sort of a hunger for something I hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah, well, the fact that this episode exists does help the Wire Fry a bit as well,
Definitely, that's true.
Not
in terms of motivating me to rewatch it.
No, I'm thinking more, especially when I first saw them. Or when I first saw the Wire Fry, I was like, the brains are man, this episode is going to be something else. And sure enough, it was a classic.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I do feel fairly positively about this one. Actually not one of my I like it, but it's not one of my favourites from this season, because there's quite a number of them here which are really strong, especially in the second half, and some which are approaching actually from where we are with this the 7th, I believe, episode in the season. Anyway, I don't know if you've got any more to share, because I'm effectively out. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, I'm out.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I guess you'll be here next time if you're inclined.